Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about blue win overhaul. What do I mean by that? What is a blue win overhaul? So basically, I'm looking. We're now in June. We're coming up to the convention soon. It looks, the presumptive Joe Biden is the presumptive nominee. I think he is an absolute slam dunk loss to Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump, before coronavirus and before the recent turmoil, was almost a shoo-in, and I feel like basically what's happened is that recently the blue power base has been just laying cement to ensure that Donald Trump wins by an absolute landslide. And I'm absolutely amazed at how poor the overall approach is from the blue power base to get a win in 2020. I can't put too much blame on him in that I don't think it's possible to get a win with Joe Biden. So it really is throwing deck chairs off the Titanic. Like, what's it matter? Like, we have an absolute terrible candidate. Like, no one's excited about him. No one is personally excited about Joe Biden. There are be clear, there are organizations that are passionate about Joe Biden. He has talked to their leadership, and they can bring 10, 20, 30,000 votes. Not a single one of those actual individual voters care anything about Joe Biden, but they're being directed by an organization they do care about. Joe Biden is good at that, right? But there's not nearly enough of it to beat Donald Trump. And one thing is that really blew my mind too is just this. It's like 2016 never happened. The media has learned absolutely no lessons from 2016, and they're reassuring every single Democrat out there that it's all locked up. The polls are showing it, man. 271 electoral votes. Joe Biden's going to be a shoo-in. He's just going to slide in like grease, just like we told you with Hillary Clinton. And they're not saying, oh, we're using all the same methods to do our polling. We didn't change a thing. And basically, yeah, the same thing's happening. We're calling landlines for voters that, who's still using landlines? And then in addition to that, we're talking to lots of people who say they're going to vote Democrat. Probably won't vote when it comes time. They'll just say it on the poll. And then we're also talking to lots of people who are probably saying they're going to vote Democrat because they're afraid to tell, an East Coast or West Coast pollster that they're going to vote Trump. They know they're going to get a frown. They know they're going to get a tisk. And so they lie or they cross the street, right? And this is exactly how Donald Trump, every single poll told us that Hillary Clinton was going to lock this up, and every single Democrat was like, whew, I don't need to hustle and get out there and vote. Everybody else will do it. And just, and the media slammed the Democrats into the wall and just crushed them in 2016 by allowing them to have a false sense of security. And they're doing it all over again. It's like a bump. It's like percussion. It is absolutely stunning to see what's happening. Truly incredible. I can't believe, and so the blue power base is just absolutely wrecked. They have virtually no chance of winning, in my opinion. Prediction: Trump win in the fall. Period. I mean, just if you're looking at, I'm not gonna vote for him, right? But I'll tell you right now, I just don't think there's any chance that Biden has of beating Trump. There's none. I used to say he has 1% chance. I think he has a 0.1% chance, right? Like 10% of 1%. That's about the chance Joe Biden has of beating Donald Trump at this point, in my opinion. All right. With all that said, I want to talk about a blue win overhaul, right? Right now, I really feel like I've figured something out, okay? The Blues are not terrible at politics, right? They're the second most powerful party in the country, and they are absolutely doing their thing, and making sure that they're out there they're the second most powerful party in America. That you can't dismiss that. That's important. That's major, right? It's a really, really big deal. And I'm not dismissive of that, right? But they're way behind the Reds, right, as far as organization and getting actual power. But the Blues are very good at one thing, and that is being heard. The blue power base and the blue voter base and blue sympathizers, people who sympathize with blue Democrats, blue Democrat, red Republican, people who sympathize with blues but don't vote. And there's tons of them. I think there may be more of them than vote, believe it or not. And we already know this. There's already been polls that have said there in certain areas of America, without a doubt, blues are far more likely to rally than to rally and do activism than they are to vote. Right? So they'll go out and they'll like hold a picket sign for, change climate, end climate change, but they actually won't go to the voting booth. There's lots of reasons for this. I've done entire videos on it, right? But whereas, boy, man, Republican, you can't keep them away from the voting booths. It's a huge problem, right? And the blues, where we're at right now is the blues are amazingly good at being heard. They're constantly heard. They have the power of the media, and every single annoyance they have is heard. Every single complaint they have is heard. Every boo-boo and woe they have is heard. Big and small. So I said boo-boo. I shouldn't be dismissive. Blues absolutely have some real problems. They are genuinely heard, okay? But because they don't coalesce around a central leader, and because when they do coalesce around us, actually, you know what? Nobody's coalescing around Joe Biden. There isn't a coalescing. There's a bunch of people going, is this our candidate? So that's the issue. Blues don't coalesce around a central leader, period. It's their biggest problem right now. And until they get there, we have to overhaul. We have to do a blue win overhaul, which is how do blues actually win and not be heard? Because that's what the Reds are doing. The Reds aren't heard. They're silent. They are so silent. They know what they want. They're not saying it to anybody but themselves, right? They're keeping it very, very quiet. And you know when you learn what a Republican actually wants? When they get it, right? And somebody figures out that they got it 3 months later, right? It's incredible how powerful the Reds are and how effective they are. And the reason why is they don't care about being heard. What they care about is, what they genuinely care about is they really, really, really care about getting what they, Reds care about getting what they want, getting things done. And it's a huge issue, right? So we have to do this blue win overhaul. So how do you get there, right? So there are so many problems that the blues have that I want to take them like one by one, break them down and fix them, all right? So today, what we're going to talk about is just one massive mistake that the blues made in 2020, in the 2020 primary, that we can identify now and fix, all right? So let's do it. So this is a blue win overhaul. These are things that the blues need to stop doing in order to actually win and stop being heard and win, right? I'll give you a real quick story. I remember this is about in 2000, maybe 2001. Me and my wife, we were struggling. We didn't have a lot of money. I was working and I just did not have a high pay. And we had a car. We had a car. Car broke down. We didn't have the money to fix it and get a new car. So I couldn't get to work. It was a terrible, terrible problem. We went to church the next week. And I remember there were 2 or 3 people who heard us and really just listened to us and said, oh my gosh, we're so sorry you are dealing with this problem. It must be such a struggle to not be able to get to work. And we just want you to know, we just feel so bad for you. And, put their hands on our shoulders, gave us hugs, and heard us, right? And I remember there was this one gentleman, I'll remember this to this day, and he was sitting waiting for his wife. He was about 2 pews away. He never said a thing, right? And I could tell, he was kind of looking over, and I was like, I didn't feel embarrassed or anything. We were in our own church. I don't need to hide anything from people at church, right? And so, but he didn't say nothing. And later that week, he came over and he goes, you know what? This is a station wagon we have. It's this hideous light blue and wood paneling. It's got 80,000 miles on it. It's a piece of junk, but it runs, and it's yours. Here's the keys, right? He did something, and on that day, he gave me a win. He didn't just hear me, he gave me a win, right? There was a difference. There's a difference between being heard and winning, right? I won that day because at the end of the day, I had a vehicle that I could drive to work, and I could continue to support my family. There's a difference between being heard and winning, all right? So let me tell you the let me tell you a thing that has to get fixed in the next election. Here we go. All right. International country X does this. All first world countries, all developed nations do this, except America, right? This was said again and again and again by candidate after candidate after candidate, right? Blue candidate, right? And the reason why is it shocks me that these candidates are none of them are stupid. Absolutely no one who ran in 2020 was stupid. All the candidates were very intelligent, but man, were they ignorant, right? They just lacked knowledge, right? So here was the big one, right? They would say Bernie Sanders was one of the worst at this. He's like, every European country has healthcare, and America needs to have that too, right? And I'm like, dude, okay, first of all, you're preaching to the choir. You don't need to win Democrats. You need to win Republicans, right? And Bernie never understood that. Bernie never understood that he already had Democrats in the bag. He needed to show the blue power base he could actually convert Trump voters, because that's the only way the blues win, right? And he never did it. And he actually thought that if you told Americans that all these other international countries were doing this thing, and that if America just got on board, everything was going to work out, that this would be good, that Americans would appreciate being told this, right? This is outrageously ignorant on the part of every single blue Democrat candidate. You cannot tell Americans, right, that they need to get in line with the rest of the world. You can't tell Americans that. Like, what the heck? Like, it's so clear, right? You cannot do it. You cannot do it. Okay? What you can do is you could say, hey, we should go to a one-payer system. And here's my plan to go to that one-payer system. And if we do this, this is the benefits you will get, right? Now, lots of European countries have one-payer systems, and the benefits you're going to tell Americans are going to be the exact same benefits that are getting from Europe, right? But you can let Americans think it's their idea and that they're the first ones to do it, right? And the thing is, I get it. You and me, we're political wonks, right? I got 2 degrees, and I'm betting a lot of you have 1 or 2 or maybe 3 as well, right? If you're listening to this channel, right? And the reality is, but if you're going to win an election, you got to talk to everybody, right? And I'll tell you right now, at the 51% level, Americans do not need to not to be told that they need to get in back of the line for an international trend, right? No way. This is insane. Why on earth would anybody waste their time saying this to Americans? It only alienates them, and what I'm saying is super clear. Bernie got wrecked, and all these candidates still think they can talk to America and say, we need to do what the rest of the world is doing. That does not motivate 51% of Americans. It absolutely motivates 13% of Americans, right? The ones who are, on a Sunday morning, they're out at brunch in a car that they drove, an electric car that they drove there, drinking mimosas at 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning, right? That's who it's going to turn. But you can't win an election with, hummus eating, electric car driving, brunch, Sunday morning brunchers, right? That's not 51% of America, and you're not going to win nothing for it. You will get some really nice articles written about you in the New Yorker, right? And you'll get some great interviews from MSNBC, but you're not going to win an election. We've seen this. It's proven. All that is my opinion. What do you think? What needs to get overhauled for the Blues to start winning and stop being heard? I'd love to hear your opinion. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.